while we're speaking about this particular human being, I think at this point in the podcast, it's a great place to also bring in Shaitan or Satan.
Sure.
I don't even know where to begin this topic because I actually don't like talking about it, honestly. I think it's a low frequency conversation. And whenever I speak about the Illuminati or Satan on my show, I almost feel a drain of energy.
Yeah.
And I know that's not something I want to dive deep into. So I'd love for you to give me a quick fire.
Okay, we'll do the quick one on this because this is easy to do. Okay, so Satanism can only be understood as an inversion of Christianity. So it's a Christian, it's something that Christianity to a large extent created and then projected onto all of its enemies.
And projected to all of its enemies.
Yeah. So the idea that if we look at like the classical images of like the devil or Satan with horns and like hairy and all of these things, this is in many ways a pagan deity. This is in many ways a lot of people when they were looking at this in the Victorian kind of period, they were very interested in Pan.
In what?
The Greek god Pan.
Like Peter Pan?
Yeah, the second part, Pan. So Pan is like he was quite a small deity at the time, but he was the god of like wine and sex and fertility and like, you know, like a little bit of misrule. Misrule, yeah. And so all of these aspects of like, these more animal base aspects that Christianity was opposed to.
Lust oriented.
Yeah. They all got pushed into this figure that they created called Satan. Because when you look in the Bible, it's a very mixed story about Satan and about Lucifer.
It's the same person or same thing that they're talking about, right?
They're talking about a range of different things from a range of different stories and traditions that have all been put under one name, one label. And they've said, this is the bad thing. Anyone who's not us is this thing. And this thing is where we all put all of the bad ideas. So if you look, if you think about the conscious and the unconscious, if you want to think about the mind like that, all of the bad things get pushed into this dark place. And this dark place has a label on it called Satan, saying, don't touch, don't go here. And many good things were pushed here, not just bad things, but there were good things that were pushed here as well. Particularly the body and the lessons and the truths within the body, because Christianity, when it began, was very body and life denying. There was a lot of talk about celibacy for both men and women. The body was seen as a bad thing. Even having children was seen as being a bad thing. Like it was quite a death cult when early Christianity started, first couple of centuries of Christianity. So the devil took on all of the negative characteristics that the culture didn't want to look at. And then this figure became bigger and bigger. And as the Christian church began to show itself as being not what it said it was, that it was doing bad things, many, many atrocities carried out in the world of the Christian church, some people inevitably look at the other side of the coin and they say, the Christian God is not someone I want to deal with. I'll deal with this other thing because this figure opposes Christianity. And Christianity at the same time benefited from creating this evil figure and saying, anyone who is our enemy, they're this. No, there's nothing good in this. This is kind of the cultural impact that created this figure. So it's really a projection, a shadow of Christianity that they used to control people. But Satanism, the practice of Satan worship, you can break down quite quickly. So particularly in terms of the written records for what we have. The French really invented Satanism. Like Satanism was something that you found around the French courts. And there are a couple of famous historical events that that revealed that there were people who were killing children and performing abortions and poisonings. And so there was a group of people around the court of Louis with the affair of the poisons. If you want to Google something for Satanism, the affair of the poisons is where you find it, where there was an abortionist called Madame Montespan, who had a circle of people, and she was drawing them in, and this still happens today. She's drawing them in to participate in black masses, in these acts of ritualized evil. And we see this today, whether you're P. Diddy or Jeffrey Epstein, if you can compromise people in positions of power by making them participate in a bad thing, you can blackmail them. And so that was pretty much what Satanism was then. Very small thing, very elite level. At the same time, there were people persecuted throughout the society who were called Satanists. Some of them were burned as witches. That's part of the story of the witchcraft trials. So that was Satanism classically, the classical period of Satanism, where you take the high Catholic mass and you flip it, you turn it on its head.
There's also a deity that goes by the name of Satan.
And so there's a deity that's called Satan that they are worshipping in return for material things and power.
But this is a real deity.
It's as real as you want it to be. It's clearly become something. So yes, it's clearly a thing.
Can collective consciousness of many human beings over centuries create a deity?
Yeah, completely.
That's what's happened.
Yeah, it's that kind of thing. It's an egregore would be the technical term for it. It's a deity that's been produced by a lot of people coming together and creating an image and creating a cult. But Satanism is now much more confusing, because this classical Satanism, which is what we often think about, black masses, blah, in the 1960s in America, there's a gentleman called Anton LaVey who founded the Church of Satan. Now, his form of Satanism, which is the most popular form of Satanism you will find today, is really quite atheistic and materialistic, and it's deliberately poking fun and mocking people for rejecting the body, for rejecting the pleasures of life. So if you look online and you search Satanists, you'll very often find people who are members of the Church of Satan, and many of them are atheists. They have no spiritual belief at all, but they like the aesthetic. They like to dress up in a certain way. They like to wear certain symbols. Some of them are practicing magic, but the majority of them aren't. And the majority of them are more like they're more like American libertarians. Yeah, like the far Republican Party, like the far right of the Republican Party, like absolute freedom. So like they'd be in favor of no gun control. They're in favor of alcohol. They're in favor of sex. They're in favor of all of these things. So it's in some ways it's quite life affirming, and they're often not bad people. I know quite a few of these people. They're fine, but it's very modern and it's a little superficial. So that was the modern Satanism that occurred in the 60s, and that's the dominant flavor of modern Satanism. If you look at if you're looking at practitioners, but because this group was so materialistic and really quite atheistic, a lot of them were atheists, there was a reaction to that, and there is a smaller group of people who are theistic Satanists. So they're people who worship Satan as a deity. And again, there are a range of people here, but most of them are actually not bad people at all. They're people who are just ultra liberal, ultra libertarian. They're not doing awful things. And then we have a third level. So the third level is what you'll find if you get your information from Twitter and YouTube. Yeah. And this is where there's an idea that there is an elite group of bad people who are doing bad things because they are Satanists.
Illuminati.
The Illuminati, like all of that nonsense that we as magical practitioners then have to deal with because we're placed in that category.
I mean, yeah, that's a thought at the back of my head throughout this podcast that you're going to be called satanic at the...
always.
You're already called satanic.
Yeah, it's not a problem. Like, it's not a problem because they simply don't understand the technical terms. Now, I could describe myself technically as a Luciferian. Okay. So what I do with my reading of the Bible is I would split the ideas of Satan as the opposer and Lucifer as the light bringer. And I would say that my tradition is to do with the Luciferian aspect, is to do with freedom, is to do with beauty, it's to do with the body, it's to do with light, yeah, as opposed to the satanic aspect, which is to do with the dark, is to do with transgression, and it's particularly linked up with, human sacrifice, all that kind of nonsense, which I've never come across any of this practice.
Before we move forward, simple question for you. What do you want for humankind?
I want the evolution of humankind. I want us to fulfill our destiny and return to the stars.
Okay. When you meet people or when you see other human beings, what do you feel, Peter?
I love human beings. Okay. Yeah, I think human beings are great. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Now let's move on.
Yeah. But it's important to do because these technical terms get turned into a mess very, very quickly. Certainly, there are what people would understand to be Satanists in the world, by which I mean people who worship a deity called Satan and gather together in small groups and do bad things. But this is a blackmail racket. Again, as I said, this is P. Diddy, Jeffrey Epstein style entrapment. And this is something that we found in our cultures for a long time. And very often, as you look into it, you discover that it's intelligence services behind it because it's very useful to be able to blackmail people who are in positions of power. But as for an all-powerful satanic conspiracy, like I have seen no evidence of such a thing. Small groups of compromised blackmail people in the elites? Absolutely. Global Satanism is a fantasy.
Got it. So the Illuminati is not controlling our world?
Unfortunately not, no.
Okay. I'm actually going for dinner with the Rockefellers at some point, and they're the name associated with the Illuminati.
Yeah.
They're visiting India. If I get to do a podcast with them, this is what I intend on asking them. How do you guys feel about this stuff?
Yeah, I think it's a good question to ask.
Right?
Because, certainly there are people who you see playing with those symbols and ideas in positions of power. Absolutely.
But why?
Generally, sexual kicks. Generally for shock value.
To be spoken about?
To be spoken about, to hold power over other people by appealing to those symbols of like crushing dangerous power.
We mentioned P. Diddy and Epstein. Do you think they were also involved in any kind of ritualistic practice?
I'm not aware that they were involved in any kind of ritualistic practice. But I think all humans tend towards ritual behaviors. But like a specific magical, organized process of performing ritual, I don't think those individuals were, no.
Gotcha.
No.
Okay. If you enjoyed today's clip, make sure you check out these curated playlists that we've made especially for you related to the subject that was spoken about in this clip.